नमस्कार। अक्सर ये सवाल मन में आता है कि आखिर जीवन का अंतिम उद्देश्य क्या है। क्या हमारी किस्मत पहले से लिखी हुई है या हम अपनी मर्जी के मालिक हैं। आज हम हिंदू दर्शन की गहराइयों में उतरकर इन्हीं कुछ बड़े सवालों के जवाब तलाशने की कोशिश करेंगे।
तो चलिए सबसे बुनियादी सवाल से ही शुरू करते हैं। आखिर हमारा यहाँ होने का मतलब क्या है? ये एक ऐसा सवाल है जो हजारों सालों से दार्शनिकों को और हम जैसे आम इंसानों को भी सोचने पर मजबूर करता रहा है। और हिंदू दर्शन में इसका एक बहुत ही गहरा जवाब छिपा है।
तो देखिए, हिंदू परंपरा में इस सवाल का जवाब एक शब्द में सिमट जाता है। एक ऐसा लक्ष्य जिसे पाने के लिए आत्मा न जाने कितने जन्मों की यात्रा करती है। आइए इसे समझते हैं।
इसी परम लक्ष्य को कहते हैं मोक्ष। मतलब जन्म और मृत्यु के इस अंतहीन पहिए से हमेशा हमेशा के लिए आजाद हो जाना। यही तो सार है मोक्ष का। कहते हैं कि मोक्ष की अवस्था में आत्मा ईश्वर में, उस ब्रह्मांडीय चेतना में विलीन हो जाती है। इसे परमानंद भी कहा गया है। एक ऐसी स्थिति जहां कोई दुख नहीं, कोई पीड़ा नहीं, सिर्फ और सिर्फ शुद्ध आनंद।
तो ठीक है, मोक्ष तक पहुंचने का रास्ता है कर्म, हमारे कर्म। लेकिन क्या ये वाकई इतना सीधा है? क्योंकि यहीं पर एक बहुत पेचीदा सवाल खड़ा होता है जो इस पूरी व्यवस्था पर सोचने को मजबूर कर देता है।
देखिए, हिंदू धर्म ग्रंथों के अनुसार ये जो हमें इंसान का जन्म मिला है ना, इससे ठीक पहले हमारी आत्मा 84 लाख, जी हाँ 8.4 मिलियन अलग अलग योनियों से गुजरती है। जरा सोचिए, कितनी लंबी, कितनी अविश्वसनीय यात्रा है ये।
और इसी लंबी यात्रा में वो बड़ा सवाल छिपा है। अगर मोक्ष अच्छे कर्मों पर निर्भर है तो कोई जानवर वो अच्छे कर्म कैसे जमा कर सकता है? सोचिए, एक शेर शिकार करता है तो क्या वो पाप कर रहा है? नहीं, जानवरों के पास सही गलत, नैतिकता इसकी समझ नहीं होती। वो तो बस अपनी प्रवृत्ति के हिसाब से जीते हैं। तो फिर वो इस कर्म के चक्र में आगे कैसे बढ़ते हैं?
अच्छा, अगर ये कर्म वाली पहेली काफी नहीं थी तो चलिए एक और गहरे विरोधाभास में उतरते हैं। एक ऐसा विरोधाभास जो हमारी आजाद इच्छा मतलब फ्री विल के आइडिया पर ही सवालिया निशान लगा देता है।
ये धारणा है भाग्यवाद की। इसका मतलब ये मानना कि सब कुछ पहले से तय है। हमारी हर एक सांस, हर घटना, सब कुछ एक दिव्य पटकथा, एक डिवाइन स्क्रिप्ट का हिस्सा है जिसे बदला नहीं जा सकता। और बस यहीं पर एक बहुत बड़ा टकराव सामने आता है। देखिए, एक तरफ है भाग्यवाद जो कहता है कि सब कुछ पहले से लिखा हुआ है, और दूसरी तरफ है कर्म का सिद्धांत जो हमें बताता है कि हमारे चुनाव, हमारे एक्शंस हमारा भविष्य तय करते हैं। तो सवाल ये उठता है कि अगर सब कुछ पहले से ही तय है तो फिर हमारे कर्मों का मतलब ही क्या रहा? ये दोनों बातें एक साथ सच कैसे हो सकती हैं?
तो ये हमें उस सबसे बड़े सवाल पर लाकर खड़ा कर देता है। अगर कहानी का अंत पहले से ही लिखा जा चुका है तो फिर इस नाटक में हमारे अभिनय की, हमारे अच्छे बुरे कर्मों की क्या कोई कीमत है?
तो देखिए, इन गहरे फिलोसॉफिकल सवालों में उलझने के बजाय क्या हो अगर जवाब हमारे चारों ओर ही हो, प्रकृति में छिपा हुआ? शायद ये ब्रह्मांड, ये यूनिवर्स ही हमें कुछ सिखाना चाहता है। एक गहरा सत्य है, पूरा ब्रह्मांड निरंतर परिवर्तन में है, कुछ भी स्थायी नहीं है। यहां सिर्फ एक ही चीज है जो परमानेंट है, और वो है बदलाव, चेंज। इसको ऐसे देखिए, दूर दूर तक घूमती आकाशगंगाओं से लेकर हमारे अपने ग्रह पर बदलते मौसमों तक, बहती नदियों से लेकर हमारे शरीर की हर एक कोशिका तक, सब कुछ हर पल बदल रहा है। कुछ भी स्थिर नहीं है, सब कुछ एक बहाव में है। और यहीं से एक बहुत जरूरी सवाल उठता है, अगर ये पूरा ब्रह्मांड, ये पूरी कायनात ही परमानेंट नहीं है, सब कुछ बदल रहा है, तो फिर स्थायी शांति या हमेशा की खुशी जैसी चीजों की खोज करना क्या एक यथार्थवादी, एक रियलिस्टिक कोशिश है, या फिर हम एक ऐसी चीज के पीछे भाग रहे हैं जो शायद मौजूद ही नहीं है?
तो इन सब सवालों के बीच आध्यात्मिकता का एक नया रास्ता नजर आता है। एक ऐसा रास्ता जो शायद हमें इस दुनिया से भागने के लिए नहीं, बल्कि इसमें और बेहतर तरीके से जीने के लिए प्रेरित करता है।
और यही है वो नया नजरिया, वो क्रांतिकारी विचार। शायद आध्यात्मिकता का असली लक्ष्य जीवन से भागना नहीं, बल्कि इसी जीवन के साथ और गहराई से जुड़ना है। सीढ़ी चढ़कर कहीं और जाने की बजाय क्यों ना यहीं रहकर जिम्मेदारी से एक फूल उगाया जाए।
तो इस नई तरह की आध्यात्मिकता के 4 स्तंभ हो सकते हैं। पहला, जिम्मेदारी, ये मानना कि हमारे काम, हमारे एक्शन मायने रखते हैं। दूसरा, जागरूकता,
अपने अंदर और अपने आसपास की दुनिया के प्रति पूरी तरह सचेत रहना। तीसरा, करुणा, यानी दूसरों के दुख दर्द को समझना। और हाँ, चौथा और सबसे जरूरी, जिज्ञासा, हमेशा सवाल पूछते रहना, क्योंकि सवाल ही हमें आगे बढ़ाते हैं, हमें बौद्धिक रूप से आजाद करते हैं। तो आखिर में ये पूरी चर्चा हमें एक चुनाव करने के लिए कहती है। सवाल ये है कि जीवन का उद्देश्य क्या है? इस खेल से बाहर निकलना या फिर इसी खेल में रहकर इसे सबके लिए थोड़ा बेहतर बनाना? इसका जवाब शायद हम सबको अपने अपने अंदर ही खोजना होगा।
Imagine being told that the only way to achieve ultimate unbreakable peace is to die and be reborn.
Right.
Over and over. Like 8.4 million times as various animals.
Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
Right. And that your ultimate reward at the very end of that grueling, multi-million lifetime marathon is to simply stop existing as an individual altogether.
Just poof, you're done.
Exactly. So today we're welcoming you to a deep dive into a stack of sources that asks a pretty uncomfortable question.
Oh, absolutely.
Is the human pursuit of spiritual enlightenment actually just like a highly elaborated, disguised excuse to run away from our real-world responsibilities?
That's a heavy question.
It really is. We are taking a deep dive into this fascinating collection of philosophical essays, book blueprints, and these highly modern policy papers that all center around ancient Indian spiritual concepts.
But they're not just summarizing the old texts, right?
No, not at all. Instead of just doing that, these texts evaluate these deeply ingrained traditions through the lens of modern psychology, civic ethics, and even get this artificial intelligence.
Which is such a profound tension to explore.
Yeah.
I mean, we are looking at belief systems that have structured the lives of millions of people for centuries.
Centuries, literally.
Right. But when you place those ancient frameworks under the microscope of, modern societal needs, you start to see these massive fractures.
You really do.
The central theme running through all these texts is basically how we define our ultimate purpose. And maybe more importantly, who is actually responsible for the state of the physical world we live in right now.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really grasp how a spiritual framework might, inadvertently hold a society back, we first have to look at the finish line it sets up.
The ultimate goal.
Yeah. In the Indian philosophical tradition detailed in our stack, that finish line is a concept known as moksha.
Yeah, moksha, right.
It is framed as the absolute pinnacle of human existence. It's liberation, like the total cessation of the infinite, exhausting cycle of birth, death, and rebirth.
Freedom from the wheel.
Exactly. In this state, the individual soul essentially dissolves and merges back with the divine, finding total, permanent relief from the suffering of the physical world. It's the ultimate off-ramp from the highway of existence.
And getting to that off-ramp is, it's an unimaginably long process.
Oh, yeah.
The traditional belief we're analyzing posits that a soul doesn't just, spontaneously generate into a human being.
Right, just start there.
No, you have to endure a staggering 84 lakh, which translates to 8.4 million births in various non-human forms.
8.4 million.
Think about the sheer scale of that. You are a microscopic organism, then a beetle, a bird, a tiger, over and over again, 8.4 million times.
Wow.
Before you finally earn the rare privilege of a human body. So the human form is entirely framed as the direct result of good karma, slowly accumulated over eons.
Okay, but I am stuck on a massive logical loophole here, and to be fair, the texts bring this up too.
Yeah, they don't shy away from it.
No, they don't, because the whole architecture of karma relies on moral choices, right?
Yes.
Good actions earn you a promotion up the cosmic ladder, and bad actions get you demoted.
Right.
But if a soul is currently trapped in the body of, say, a lion, how is it making a moral choice?
It's not.
Exactly. Animals operate purely on biological instinct and, evolutionary programming. A lion hunting a gazelle isn't wrestling with the ethical implications of taking a life.
It's just hungry.
It's just hungry. A bird doesn't show moral restraint. They lack the cognitive hardware for moral reasoning. So how on earth does an animal perform the quote-unquote good karma required to graduate up this 8.4 million step ladder?
What's fascinating here is that you've hit on the exact contradiction the authors used to deconstruct the concept.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you view the 8.4 million births as a literal biological tracking system, it completely falls apart under scrutiny.
It makes no sense.
But if you shift your perspective and look at it as an ancient sociological tool, its original highly pragmatic purpose becomes incredibly clear.
Okay, I'm listening.
Historically, before the existence of modern legal systems, penal codes, or, surveillance cameras, leaders and thinkers needed a framework to maintain social discipline.
Wait, so you're saying this foundational spiritual concept was essentially like an early form of crowd control?
In many ways, yes. Think about it. If you convince a massive population that every single action they take is being cosmically tracked across millions of lifetimes,
Oh, wow.
and that one severe moral slip-up won't just put them in jail for a few years, but will plunge their soul back into millions of lifetimes as a lower life form.
That is terrifying.
Exactly. You have just created the most powerful behavioral deterrent imaginable. It prevents societal chaos by literally outsourcing law enforcement to the universe itself.
It's like an invisible panopticon. You police yourself because the universe is always watching. But the texts point out the dark side of this, right? When taken completely literally, this transforms spirituality into a religion based entirely on fear.
Which is a huge problem.
Right, because if you are terrified that a single mistake will drop you down an 8 million step ladder, you aren't acting kindly out of genuine compassion for your fellow man.
No, you're acting kindly out of sheer terror of the cosmic consequences.
Exactly. And that leads to a paradox that genuinely, I had to stop reading and just stare at the wall for a minute when I hit this part.
The paradox of separation.
Yes. If the ultimate desire of the universe, or God, is for every human soul to eventually achieve moksha and merge back into a state of complete, peaceful oneness,
Right.
why shatter the glass in the first place? Why separate us into this chaotic, painful, physical world?
It's the ultimate question.
If the end goal is absolute oneness, what is the point of the messy, painful journey? If the Earth is just a temporary testing ground, like a valley of tears you're supposed to escape, then all the love, the innovation, the art, and the very real human experiences we have are completely devalued.
They just become obstacles.
Right. They aren't the point of life. They're just distractions from the exit door.
And that forces us to ask what value we actually place on the human experience.
Exactly.
If a cultural or religious framework is obsessively focused on how to escape the world, it inadvertently strips the physical world of its inherent worth. Why bother fixing a broken society if the ultimate goal is just to leave it behind?
Which brings us right to the friction point of our present reality.
Yeah.
Because if our past is this rigid, terrifying ladder of karma, what does that actually mean for the choices we make today?
It's complicated.
The texts argue that this framework naturally devolves into a concept called Bhagyavad, or fatalism.
Fatalism, yes.
It's the belief that absolutely everything is predetermined by God's will. The script is already written, locked in a vault somewhere, and we're just actors hitting our marks on a stage we didn't even design.
And notice how that completely cannibalizes the previous concept we just talked about.
Oh, right.
If every action is predetermined by an all-powerful will, then the entire nuanced system of good and bad karma completely collapses.
Because there's no choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How can a cosmic judge hold you accountable for your bad karma if you never actually possess the free will to choose your actions in the first place?
It's like, imagine a student sitting down to take a massive, life-altering, multiple-choice test,
Okay.
only to realize the teacher has already gone through and filled in all the bubbles with a number 2 pencil.
Right. The test is already done.
If the outcome is completely locked, why study? Why even try to learn the material?
You wouldn't.
And think about the real-world implications of this for you, listening right now. Think about the last time you were passed over for a promotion you clearly earned.
Or the last time you saw someone blatantly cheat the system and get away with it.
Right. Because if you truly, deeply believe in extreme fatalism, you aren't even allowed to be angry. You can't demand justice because the script is already written.
The universe willed that person to cheat.
And the universe willed you to lose. It's wild.
This is where the philosophical essays in our stack become highly critical of how fatalism impacts modern society.
Yeah, they really go in on it.
They do. Because it acts as a massive psychological shield for systemic corruption. It explains that frustrating societal phenomenon where honest, hardworking people struggle in poverty while corrupt individuals thrive.
Because nobody challenges it.
Exactly. If the broader culture implicitly accepts that the corrupt politician's success and the honest citizen's suffering are both just the will of God or their karma,
It completely kills the motivation to enact civic change.
it breeds total apathy.
It gives people a cosmic permission slip to throw their hands up and say, I didn't cause this inequality, God made it happen, it's destiny.
Which is such a dangerous mindset.
The texts are arguing that true spirituality shouldn't be an escape hatch for accountability. It shouldn't allow you to ignore the suffering of your neighbor by just, writing it off as their personal karmic debt.
What should be the opposite?
Right. Genuine spirituality should anchor you to the world. It should make you more ethical, more compassionate, and actively responsible for the community around you.
But, and this is a big fist, but if we reject fatalism, if we accept that the multiple choice bubbles are empty and we actually have to take the test of life,
You have to do the work.
yeah, we're left with a massive practical problem. What are we supposed to be striving for?
Right.
Because the natural biological instinct of every human being is to seek a state of permanent peace and happiness. We all want to reach a plateau of satisfaction where nothing hurts and nothing changes.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the texts deliver a pretty brutal reality check here.
Oh, very brutal.
They say permanent happiness is a biological and cosmic trap.
A trap.
Yeah. They challenge the very foundation of why we seek permanence by asking us to just, zoom out and look at the physical universe we actually live in.
Just look around.
Look at the life cycle of stars exploding into supernovas. Look at tectonic plates violently crashing together to form mountains.
Ocean currents, hurricanes, droughts.
Volcanoes. Absolutely nothing in the observable universe is static. Everything is locked in a constant, violent state of birth, destruction, and transformation.
And we are entirely composed of the exact same matter as that chaotic universe.
Right, we are part of it.
We are carbon, water, and electricity. Yet human beings walk around constantly frustrated, stressed, and anxious.
Why?
Because we are desperately trying to achieve a state of permanent, unchanging emotional stasis in a universe where the only immutable law of physics is change.
We want our relationships to stay exactly the same forever. We want our health to never degrade.
We want everything frozen.
We expect our baseline happiness to just hit a perfect 10 out of 10 and stay there. And the authors are pointing out that expecting permanent happiness isn't just difficult, it is a mathematical impossibility in this universe.
You are fighting the foundational mechanics of reality.
You really are.
This deeply aligns with modern neuroscience and psychology, too, specifically the concept of hedonic adaptation.
Oh, what's that?
It's the idea that our brains are physically wired to adapt to new baselines. When you finally achieve that major goal, the promotion, the new house, the perfect
The
relationship,
thing that's supposed to fix everything.
right, the thing you were certain would bring you permanent joy, eventually your brain's reward centers just normalize it.
You just get used to it.
You get used to it. The texts argue that true satisfaction does not come from finding a mythical, static state of joy, because that state does not exist outside of a graveyard.
It reminds me of the suspension system in a car.
How so?
Well, the goal of driving isn't to somehow pave every single road in the world perfectly flat so you never feel a bump.
Right, that's impossible.
It's an impossible, exhausting task. The goal is to build highly effective shock absorbers. You know the potholes and the speed bumps are coming, but your internal mechanics allow you to travel smoothly over them without breaking an axle.
That is a much more accurate metaphor for applied spirituality.
Shock absorbers.
Yeah. True spiritual maturity isn't about retreating to a silent, unchanging cave to avoid the chaos. It's about building those internal shock absorbers.
I love that.
It's understanding the turbulent nature of reality deeply enough to live a fully engaged, balanced life within the constant flux. You find meaning in how gracefully you navigate the changes, rather than trying to freeze time.
Okay, so we've torn down a lot of deeply entrenched ideas here.
We have.
We've questioned the biological reality of 8.4 million animal reincarnations. We've seen how extreme fatalism acts as a toxic shield for corruption.
Yep.
And we've shattered the illusion that we can ever achieve permanent static happiness.
So what's left?
Right. But the most surprising part of our source stack is that it doesn't just leave us sitting in the rubble of, deconstructed philosophy. The author pivots entirely, moving from ancient texts to highly modern algorithmic policy papers.
This is where the material becomes highly actionable.
Yeah, it takes a wild turn.
Having diagnosed the problem that traditional spirituality often encourages escapism, the author proposes a structural, modern framework to enforce real-world engagement.
Right.
They introduce what is called the AI Third Eye Dharma framework.
Okay, I have to admit, when I first read AI Third Eye, my mind immediately went to a dystopian surveillance state.
It sounds a bit intense, yeah.
It sounds like Big Brother wrapped in a yoga mat. I was struggling to see how a national happiness dashboard isn't just an intrusive government algorithm tracking our every move. Like, how does this actually work without being terrifying?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a valid concern, but the blueprints in the texts position it very differently. The AI third eye isn't designed to track individual thoughts.
Okay, good.
Right. It's designed to aggregate societal metrics to quantify our collective ethical health. Think about how we currently measure a nation's success. We look at GDP, stock market indices, trade deficits.
Mostly financial stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But those numbers don't tell you if a society is actually healthy or ethical. This framework proposes combining artificial intelligence with what the author calls spiritual intelligence to measure the things that actually impact human suffering.
So what does this all mean? How does an algorithm actually quantify something as abstract as karma or ethical behavior?
Through data aggregation of real-world friction points.
Okay.
The framework includes an ethical behavior index. Instead of waiting for a cosmic scale to weigh good and bad deeds after death, this AI system analyzes trends in civic data.
Like what kind of data?
It looks at the frequency of corruption cases, the speed and fairness of public resource distribution, and metrics of civic engagement. It tracks the temperature of social trust.
So it's asking, are public institutions functioning transparently?
Yes. Are vulnerable populations actually receiving aid?
It's taking the abstract, invisible concept of karma and dragging it into the glaring light of real-time data analytics.
Precisely.
And the framework takes this a step further with happiness analytics. It proposes that every district and city gets a real-time happiness score.
Again, this isn't based on how many people are smiling on the street.
Right, it's not a mood ring.
No, it's pulling data on mental health resource utilization, societal stress levels, and community stability.
And it even connects directly to the individual through a citizen app, which the text outlines as a portal for mental health support, meditation guidance, and direct avenues for community volunteering.
This represents the ultimate philosophical shift advocated by the texts. The author is moving us away from a religion of fear and world escape, the traditional Moksha we talked about,
Right.
and introducing a concept they call responsibility-centered ethics.
Let's ground that term because responsibility-centered ethics sounds a bit, academic.
It does.
Essentially, it means that if the pipe in your community is leaking, you don't sit in your house meditating and praying for the water to stop. And you definitely don't look at the flooding street and say, well, it's the universe's will that we are flooding.
It's karma. No.
Responsibility-centered ethics means you pick up a wrench and you go fix the pipe.
Precisely. It's the realization that we possess the technological and analytical tools right now to build a happiness civilization model.
We don't have to wait.
We don't have to wait to die to escape suffering.
Yeah.
And we don't have to wait for divine intervention to fix our societies. The framework places the burden of destiny squarely on our own shoulders, but simultaneously provides the algorithmic tools to manage that immense responsibility.
That's a huge shift.
It redefines what a spiritual society actually looks like. It's not a society where everyone is trying to meditate their way out of physical existence.
Right.
It's a society actively engaged in monitoring its own ethical health, actively supporting its vulnerable members, and actively using data to foster genuine community trust.
It is an incredibly profound pivot. I mean, we've covered massive ground today.
We really have.
We started by examining how ancient systems were designed to manage human behavior through the terrifying concept of 8.4 million reincarnations.
Yeah.
We dissected how easily that belief can slip into toxic fatalism, where we just blame the universe for inequality and, surrender our own agency.
We give up our power.
Right. And we learned that chasing a state of permanent, unchanging happiness is a mathematical impossibility in a universe defined by violent, constant change.
And we saw how synthesizing all of these realizations forces us to embrace profound, immediate responsibility.
Exactly.
According to these texts, the ultimate goal of human life isn't to find an exit door through moksha. It isn't to surrender helplessly to a pre-written script of fate.
No?
The goal is to live fully and responsibly in the present, to build internal shock absorbers that allow us to accept the natural, turbulent changes of the universe without demanding permanence.
For you, listening to this right now, I hope you find this incredibly empowering. It means you can completely relieve yourself of the agonizing, heavy pressure to find a state of permanent happiness.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, and that is perfectly okay. You are not failing at life just because your joy fluctuates from day to day. Instead, you can focus all that wasted energy on being an aware, compassionate, and active participant in the reality right in front of you.
You can focus on the tangible karma you are creating in your community today.
Exactly, rather than worrying about the karmic debt of a million past lives.
It entirely shifts the spiritual journey from a solo inward mission of escaping the world to a collective outward mission of actively repairing it.
Which brings us to a final, slightly unsettling thought I want to leave you with today.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. We just spent time unpacking this highly modern AI third eye framework, the idea of using advanced algorithms to track our ethical behavior, calculate national happiness scores, and manage our societal well-being. On paper, it sounds like a brilliant, practical way to enforce civic responsibility in the modern world. But it also raises a massive question about the nature of free will.
It really does.
If we successfully build this ubiquitous AI system to track our every ethical move, constantly nudging our behavior and managing our mental states through data, do we risk creating a brand new type of fatalism?
Wow.
In our rush to escape the ancient idea of a predetermined destiny written by God, are we simply replacing it with a predetermined destiny written by Silicon Valley algorithms?
That is a terrifying thought.
It is. Something to think about the next time your smartwatch taps your wrist and tells you it's time to breathe.